The Federal Reserve meets again in 2 weeks when interest rates are expected to be lowered, but will it be enough to save Fed Chair Jerome Powell? President Trump has been pushing for major change at the Federal Reserve, calling him too late Powell. And joining us this morning is former Trump White House economic advisor Steve Moore. Steve, good morning to you. You've said this has been the most political Fed chair we've had. During Powell's term, we did have some of the highest inflation back in 2022. It was over 9%. Will he still push to get rid of Powell or wait until May when his term is up? How would you advise the president?
Well, there's no love lost between these two, even though it was actually Trump who appointed him originally to be the chief of the Federal Reserve Board. I suspect that there will be a lot of back and forth between the two. I think there will be almost certainly a rate cut coming in the next couple of weeks, the next time the Fed meets. Whether that satisfies Trump or not, it depends. Now, there's 7 people on the Federal Reserve Board. And Trump, if this one woman is replaced from the Federal Reserve, Trump would have 4 of those 7 appointments. So he might be able to force the hand of Chairman Powell. We'll see. But if I were Trump, I would just I'd just wait him out. He's only going to be chairman for another 6-7 months. And but you never know with Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's unpredictable at this point. I do want to talk to you about a big story that we're seeing a lot more of lately, and that is the price of home ownership these days. 60% of Americans do not think they could afford to buy a home if they wanted to. This is part of the American dream, right? As a result, the president could declare a national housing emergency in the coming months. Steve, what actions could he take if a national emergency is declared?
Well, there's an old saying that, home ownership and housing is based on 2 factors: interest rates, the mortgage rate that you have to pay out a 30-year mortgage, and the affordability. Do people have the incomes to be able to afford a house? So Trump, this is one of the reasons he wants those interest rates lowered, because he thinks that'll bring the mortgage rate down. And if that happens, that'll make housing more affordable. The big problem, as I see it, Jan, is that we have a shortage of availability of houses. We're not building enough houses in this country. And one of the things that people on the left and right generally agree on is there's too many zoning restrictions that don't allow new housing being built in areas near cities. And that's one of the reasons that people can't afford them. But I have 3 sons that are all in their mid-20s to early 30s. That's about the time when you start thinking about buying a house for the first time. But they can't, and they're doing fine economically, but they just can't afford it. The prices are just too high.
Isn't that wild? I mean, to have children that can't, to even buy a home. More than 150 million Americans, I saw you tweet this, and 7 million small businesses use Zelle as a form of payment. And now New York Attorney General Letitia James has filed a lawsuit that could put Zelle out of business. What is this lawsuit about? Why has she reopened it?
Zelle is a service that, as you just said, 150 million people use it. It's free. It's a free service that you get from the banks. I mean, we all use it now. And I don't really get why they want to go after Zelle, because it's a service that people like. It doesn't cost you much money. They're not gouging you. And so there's this kind of war against Zelle. I don't know if it's because some of the banks don't want it or some of the the issue here is that sometimes there's fraud. In other words, you wire money to someone and then it turns out to be a fraudster. And my own opinion is, look, if you're going to wire money to somebody, you better make sure you're wiring it to the right person, right? And I don't think Zelle should be responsible for that. So that's the issue, is whether the fraud should be paid for by the Zelle or should be paid for the people who are transferring money. I don't see why Zelle should be responsible for that.
And it opens the door for other potential lawsuits, too. How many payment apps do the same thing, right?
That's true.
Former White House economic advisor Steve Moore, always appreciate you joining us and giving us your expertise.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
You too.